Imagine a bank so vast that it held the treasures of kings, the savings of peasants, and the spoils of crusades. Imagine a vault so impenetrable that even monarchs dared not storm its gates. Now imagine that this bank existed not on Wall Street, not in London, not in Zurich, but in the hands of warrior monks sworn to poverty. The Knights Templar. Soldiers in white cloaks, red crosses stitched across their chests, carrying not only swords, but ledgers. Some say they created the first shadow economy hidden centuries before anyone whispered the word finance. But you cannot shout about money in the Middle Ages without inviting suspicion. Gold moved in silence. Promises were written in ink and sealed in wax, and yet they carried more weight than iron keys. To understand this mystery, you must move slowly, gently into their world. The Templars did not begin as bankers. They began as protectors sworn to guide pilgrims through the dangerous roads leading to Jerusalem. But almost immediately, they discovered that swords alone could not protect travelers. Gold, after all, was a burden, drawing thieves like moths to flame. So the Templars offered something unusual: leave your coins behind in Europe and carry only a piece of parchment. Present it at a Templar house in the Holy Land, and your fortune would be restored. It was not magic, it was accounting. But in an age where most people could not read it, looked like sorcery. From there their reach grew. Kings trusted them, popes shielded them, merchants envied them, and across the span of 2 centuries, the Templars quietly became more than soldiers. They became the architects of a system that eerily resembles modern banking, long before the invention of interest rates, credit cards, or offshore havens. Their power was built in silence through the flow of silver and the promise of protection. And yet, when the order fell in flames and chains, their wealth vanished with them. Some believe their treasure was stolen. Others whisper it was never treasure at all, but something stranger. The architecture of a financial web too advanced for its time. Before we venture further into the shadows, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss a secret that history has tried to forget. You step back into the 12th century, when the Crusades reshaped not only the politics of Europe and the Middle East, but also the daily rhythms of power and survival. The Knights Templar were not yet the feared bankers of legend. They were at first simply a band of men guarding pilgrims trudging through bandit-ridden roads between the coast and Jerusalem. They dressed plainly, ate sparingly, and vowed to fight to the death rather than let travelers be slaughtered. Yet beneath the clang of steel and the dust of holy roads, the first seeds of their financial empire were already being sown almost invisibly. For war was expensive, and charity alone could not feed an army that was growing in numbers and prestige. Donations began to pour in. Nobles eager to prove their piety gifted land to the order, often entire estates that included villages, fields, and vineyards. Kings offered exemptions and privileges, seeing the Templars as useful pawns on the frontier. The order suddenly found itself not just with swords and shields, but with farmland, livestock, and steady income streams. A knight could ride into battle knowing that his meals, his horse, even his chainmail had been paid for by a farm in France or a mill in Spain. It was here in this quiet accumulation of property that their role shifted from holy protectors to custodians of wealth. A sword could defend pilgrims, yes, but grain rents and taxes could defend the Templar treasury. One detail often overlooked is the way their network spread into the very fabric of local economies. A farmer who owed rent to a Templar estate might not have realized that his yearly wheat shipment carted off under the seal of the Red Cross could end up feeding soldiers in Acre. A fisherman in the Channel could see his dues ferried to London, then to Paris, and eventually carried east. The order's wealth was not hoarded in a single pile of gold. It moved like a bloodstream through a vast and disciplined body. This was no accident. The Templars, unlike other monastic groups, were given papal exemption to operate across kingdoms without paying local taxes. It meant they could move assets as freely as they moved their knights, sidestepping barriers that even kings had to respect. Here lies a historical fact that scholars always emphasize: the Templars were granted extraordinary privileges by Pope Innocent XII in 1139 through the bull Omni Datum Optimum. With this, they became answerable only to the Pope himself, exempt from local tithes, free to travel across borders, and allowed to build their own churches. That legal foundation gave them a rare immunity that made their growing economic experiments possible. But with privilege came suspicion, for to be free of taxes was to look dangerously like rivals to monarchs who relied on revenue. Yet some interpretations suggest this financial shift was not entirely deliberate. The Templars may have stumbled into their role as bankers simply because they had no other choice. With lands scattered from Ireland to Syria, they needed administrators, ledgers, and secure means of transfer. They could not carry sacks of coin across hostile territory without losing half to brigands. So naturally, they developed methods of storing, recording, and reallocating wealth. The line between protector and financier blurred until they were quietly and without proclamation both at once. The road to Jerusalem was not just paved with dust and blood, but also with parchment and seals. Still, the debate lingers: did they invent this system with foresight, as shrewd innovators anticipating a world economy centuries ahead of its time, or did necessity drag them into it, clumsy accountants who just happened to stumble upon practices that resemble modern banking? Scholars remain divided. Some argue their letters of credit were revolutionary, while others caution against projecting today's systems onto a medieval context. What is certain, however, is that by the middle of the 12th century, the Templars were already trusted not just with lives, but with fortunes. It is here you begin to glimpse the quiet tension that would run like a shadow beneath their story. Pilgrims saw them as guardians, kings saw them as lenders, and rivals saw them as competitors. The Templars could not yet have known that these rivalries, sharpened by coin as